Born after 1996 but before 2013, the world was introduced to a generation ready to make a change. Although the younger side of Gen Z is only 9 years old, the older part of the generation has lived through their last teen moments in a pandemic, organized protest over gun violence, environmental change, and helped to further the Black Lives Matter movement. But why does it matter? What makes Gen Z so different from the other generations? Well, starting off, a study on Pew Research showed that Gen Z is the most diverse and inclusive generation compared to all the others. While 52% of Gen Z are white, it's compared very relatively less than the rest of the generation. 25% are Hispanic, 14% are black, 6% are Asian, and 5% are others. But what else? Gen Z also focuses more on education rather than other priorities. As you can see, Gen Z are less likely to drop out of high school and enroll in college. This is most likely due to living with a parent who had a BA degree in the beginning. But it doesn't stop there. Gen Z is more likely to engage in an educational activity rather than getting a job. In this article by Pew Research, it says only 18% of Gen Z teens were employed in 2018, compared with 27% of millennial teens in 2002 and 41% of Gen Xers in 1986. As you can tell, it is a big difference in the percentage. They also spend more time socializing and getting together rather than working too. So it's a no brainer that the pandemic has affected a lot of Gen Z's lives. But Gen Z has been known for one thing, and that's speaking up. The graph here shows that 70% of Gen Z are more do it yourself rather than letting someone else deal with it. And we see that all with the protests that happened not only during the pandemic, but before it too. But how did they do it? How did they get their voices out there? We live in the era of a technology, an era that Gen Z was born into. Personally speaking, I haven't lived a day in my life without looking at the screen or at my phone or anything. I mean, we were born with the internet. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, they're all platforms to reach out and bring awareness. And they're all where Gen Z could be their authentic self with their own sense of humor. An article on Marketing Drive said that social activism posts on TikTok have urged 54% of Gen Zers to engage in discussions with family and friends. It's kind of like, in other words, it's kind of like monkey see, monkey do, you know? If someone sees someone do something, they're going to want to do it too to make a change. Don't believe me? Here's an interview I had with my friend and her perspective on how social media has affected the growth and conversation on social justice. Thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. Is it okay if you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Tenzin Damdul. I'm currently a sophomore at City College. I'm 19 years old, born in 2002. I'm currently majoring in international relations with the focus of comparative policy.
Thank you. My first question is, how do you get your everyday news information?
So, as an international relations student, I have to kind of get a holistic approach or get a holistic perspective. So I'm always trying to see what's going on globally. So with that, I try to look at like news sources such as like BBC. But when I am like trying to update myself on what's happening with current events in the city, I'd say like just New York Post, New York Times.
Mhm. And how often do you use social media?
I would just like any moment, honestly. Yeah.
Mhm. And have you ever participated in any social justice due to social media?
Definitely, yes. I would say in high school, especially when social media was definitely a rise or when I had access to it. Like the first thing I can definitely remember was after the Parkland shooting. Once we saw it all over social media, it kind of kickstarted like open discussions on the criminalization of POC students. It led to walkouts and student-led protests about anti-gun violence, and then also just I guess like we began to learn more about like the importance of like voter registration and voter education, especially when it involves minorities. And that was just based on like I guess the rise of politics in social media and like the influence that it has.
So, follow up question. How
Yes.
influential do you think social media is on politics? Because
I
you
think it could
mentioned,
be
yeah.
mhm. I think it could be really influential because, like I said, especially depending on what side I think you are on social media, for example, which can go both ways. It could be very negative and harmful, but it can also be very positive. on the most. For me and myself, I think it's very educational, and it allows me to see what's happening from different perspectives of what's happening in different environments. It allows me to learn what's happening in Parkland, Florida. It's telling me what's issues are happening around the world in like the span of like a swipe. So yeah,
Thank you so much, Tenzin.
of course.
The work of Gen Z clearly doesn't end here. As the generation gets older and many more of us becomes teens and adults, I have no doubt of the new changes we'll bring to the world. As social media also continues to evolve and still is a way for people to interact, I have no worries of anyone shutting this generation down. Thank you.